Hey guys, Dan Williams here at Range of Motion. Today I want to talk about how you can cycle the intensities of your training sessions to be able to maximize results while minimizing overtraining. Now, we are talking today about people at the top end of the athlete spectrum, people who are focusing on trying to maximize their performance. This one is not going out to the social, everyday exerciser who's just in the game for health. And the reason we have to make that distinction is because there is a law of diminishing returns that happens with high volume exercise. And basically, if you're doing no exercise at all, you obviously get no benefits from exercise. If you go from doing nothing to doing a very small amount, suddenly the benefits you get increase infinitely. So suddenly you're getting some benefit of exercise. Now, the more exercise sessions, the more volume, the more frequency, the more intensity that you add on top of that, yes, there's an improvement, but that improvement becomes less and less and less over time. So what we're talking about now is those people who are at the top end, where that rate of improvement has started to slow. We're up here towards the top of this curve, and yet we're still trying to maximize and get these little tiny 0.5%, 1% gains. Now, to do that, we have to understand that you have to do a decent amount more exercise to get a small amount of return. But what happens if you do too much of this is this curve generally gets to a certain point where it starts to level off, then you hit the wall, you overtrain, and the benefit starts to drop. And people who treat exercise as a sport, maybe who treat CrossFit as a sport, their health is starting to become jeopardized because they're starting to get to the point where they're overtraining and then starting to drop and the benefits are falling away. Now, it is important that athletes at a top level sometimes do flirt with this line, and sometimes they do have to overtrain to be their best. Because if you don't occasionally overtrain, you don't know where that cliff is starting to happen, and you don't know what your capabilities are. Again, because we're looking for these tiny 1% gains, you need to be as close as possible to that line of overtraining without actually hitting that line of overtraining. So imagine you've got two athletes, and these two athletes are in a week of training. Now, in that week of training, if athlete A can hit 4 sessions in that week, 1, 2, 3, 4. Athlete B can hit 8 sessions in that week, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What you'll find is, all else being equal, and if you have full recovery and proper recovery practices, athlete B is going to get more benefit because they're doing 8 sessions as opposed to 4. Now, again, law of diminishing returns, it doesn't mean that they get twice as much benefit, but at this level, a couple of percent is going to be a big deal. So, all else being equal, more is better to a certain point, as we've already talked about, but more is better. And their ability to fit more sessions in this cycle of training comes down not only to the sessions themselves, but also the recovery practices in between these sessions. Because the more recovery you have, the more you can train, you can add a stimulus to your body. But what I want to talk about today are the sessions themselves, and a way that we can cycle the intensities of training to be able to maximize the effect of each one, to be able to maximize the volume while helping to minimize this overtraining effect and that point where we're hitting the wall and starting to lose the benefit of exercise and hit that cliff of becoming unhealthy. So there's a practical way that we can do this, and it's called the neuromuscular fatigue rating scale. And what we can basically do is assign each session we do a score on a scale of 1 to 4. A session rated number 1 would be very low effect on the body. So the sort of session you could do maybe as an active recovery, something like an easy swim or a long walk, something that is more refreshing, more replenishing than it is actually breaking down your body and adding too much stress. We take it to the other extreme. Session number 4 is something that leaves you feeling like you've been hit by a truck. So this would be a neuromuscular fatigue rating number 4. Maybe this is heavy barbell work under a lot of cardiorespiratory duress, heavy deadlifts, heavy squats, something putting a lot of load on your body from a musculoskeletal point of view, but also from a nervous system and a hormonal point of view. Something that takes a lot of recovery time. It leaves you on the floor. It leaves you feeling very fatigued for the remainder of the day. And it also leaves you feeling a bit sore and beaten up for a couple of days after. And then obviously there's a rating of 2 or 3, which would be things that are in between those two extremes. So what we can do is every type of session we do, we can subjectively assign that a score, whether it's a 1 for a low neuromuscular fatigue rating, or a 4 for very high, or obviously a 2 or a 3. And this just gives us a very quick, easy and dirty way to see how much impact, how much negative effect that has had on our body, how much stimulus we've applied, and therefore how much recovery is needed from that session. So what we can do is we can look over the space of a week or whatever training sort of microcycle you want to be looking at. Over a space of that week, we can then say, all right, on Monday, what do our sessions add up to? Let's say you've done 2 training sessions for the day. One is a 2 out of 4, the other one is a 4 out of 4. So on Monday, the neuromuscular fatigue rating that we have is a 6, that being the 2 plus the 4. We can do that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday through to the end of the week. And what this can do again is just give us a really quick at a glance view of how much impact we're having on our body. And we can then tailor our recovery practices, our sleep, our nutrition, our supplementation, post-exercise routines. We can help to tailor these based on the amount of exercise that we're doing. And not only on the volume, but also the neuromuscular fatigue effect it's having on our body. So how do we use this to be able to maximize our training volume while also helping to minimize overtraining? Well, what I find works really well in the athletes that we work with at Range of Motion Individualized Programming is a double wave each week. So we will work at a higher intensity on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, where we've got a higher neuromuscular fatigue rating. We'll then drop down on the Thursday. Maybe we do something with a 1 or a 2 rating. Something like a swim would be put on a Thursday. And then Friday, Saturday, we pick it back up to a high neuromuscular fatigue rating, and then back down probably to a 0 on a Sunday for a complete rest or recovery day. So a week may look something like Monday, maybe a neuromuscular fatigue rating total of a 7. Tuesday, maybe a 6. Wednesday, maybe we go to a 7 again. Thursday, as we deload in the middle of the week, that midweek deload day, down to a 1 or a 2 total neuromuscular fatigue. Then Friday, picking it back up to maybe an 8, Saturday, 7-ish, and then Sunday would be a 0. This is, again, just a really good way to be able to look at the training you're doing, take the training you're doing, assign it a score, not having to take bloods, look at heart rate measures. These can be good things, and this ability to be able to moderate your training based on feel can be a good thing, but this is just a very quick, a very easy way to assign scores to your training, to see the effect that it's having on your body, and then being able to manage that effect. All right, guys, I hope you have found this useful. Really good way to be able to get as much effect, stimulus, and recovery from your training as we can without overdoing it. If you'd like to discuss this further, guys, or you have any questions at all, please post wherever you're watching this video or shoot me an email. You can get me at dan@rangeofmotion.net.au. Thanks a lot. See you next time.